He speaks fluent Klingon. Backwards. The best story he's ever told was to himself. Of the two women he's slept with in his life, one fell asleep. The other thought he was someone else. Dogs take him for walks. He is the world's most semi-interesting man.
I don't often smoke, but when I do, I only choose Vista Vapors.
Visit them today at tinyurl.com/P3Vista.
Keep it flavorful, my friends.
When you go shopping for wine, do you look at the labels? Do you stare at the price and wonder if the wine is worth the expensive tag? Well, stop it, because Wine of the Month Club has you covered. Every month, Wine of the Month Club is going to send you 2 bottles of high-quality wine right to your front door.
And what better way to say I'm thinking of you than a subscription to the original Wine of the Month Club for a friend or a sweetheart. Each month they'll be reminded of your thoughtfulness and will receive the monthly wine letter and newsletter binder. Recipes, wine knowledge, and great wine, and the opportunity to get more of their favorites is at hand. Give with confidence and joy, knowing that you're a part of the original Wine of the Month Club.
By the way, there are no dues, no fees, no hidden charges. Cancel anytime with no obligation. Just pay no more than $23.96 plus shipping for 2 great bottles of wine. Go there now. Sign up by visiting our link, tinyurl.com/P3Wine. That's tinyurl.com/P3Wine. The Wine of the Month Club, the original wine club since 1972.
Welcome to P3 Radio.
Oh my God.
Demolition! We're coming for you, baby!
And if you're going to call me back tomorrow, whatever, I'll give you.
You better believe I took my turn with Lieutenant. What?
Cool story, bro.
PG3 Radio.
Nope. Here's your host, Josh Friday.
I wonder when Fritz is coming up sometime. You know, all 3 of his sons will real soon.
Richard Mullican.
I don't know. Is this making any sense to anybody out there?
It's showtime! It's showtime! It's showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, joining the P3 Radio Show right now, we are honored to have MMA's leg lock monster, Josh. Leg lock monster, Jonathan Ivey. Jonathan, thank you for being a part of P3 Radio today.
I'm glad to be here, guys. I'm looking forward to talking with you guys.
Well, I mean, we've been looking up a lot of your matches and a lot of your stuff here lately just to kind of get pumped up for this interview. And some of the things we've seen is you're a charismatic guy. For wrestling fans like us that watch MMA, you're kind of like the best of both worlds. You're like the big guy that's also flashy and charismatic in the ring.
Thank you. I wish there were some females in Middle Tennessee that felt the way you did about me, because I'm on a dry patch right now. But yeah, man, I appreciate all that. That was nice to hear.
Yeah, man. But I mean, it's refreshing to see that because, like I was talking about earlier, we come from a professional wrestling background, and you have to be bigger than life itself when you're in that ring. You overact. Sometimes you see some MMA matches and some guys, you can tell they're not having fun. It's just strictly business. They go out there. But some of those matches where I've saw where you were just taunting people saying, come on, is that all you got? That's interesting. That makes me want to get into it more. Now, I'm either going to be a fan of yours, which in this scenario, you're way bigger than me. So I'm going to say I'm a fan of yours. And so I'm either going to go that route or I'm going to root against you. So it makes it interesting to see that.
Well, so many fighters are cookie cutter, and they all look the same. They all act the same. And for me, the reason why I do it, I dress up in the costumes and act silly in the ring sometimes. It's just a stress reliever for me. This was not my calling. I was not supposed to do this. I was supposed to be a high school football coach. Right. And this just kind of happened, and it has distracted me for the last 20 years. I just do it to calm myself and to let some of the stress. If I'm acting like it doesn't faze me, and if I'm not scared, I'm always scared to death. But if I act like I'm not, then I don't know. I guess it calms me down a little bit. And people sometimes take it the wrong way. But I'm just trying to get through the night, get a paycheck, and make rent, man. And so that's they're just going to have to deal with it. And I was taking so many fights in such a short time span that I was losing some because I didn't have time to heal or prepare. And then when I found out that I wasn't going to be able to win every fight, I was, well, there's got to be a reason for the promoters to bring me back. And so it had to be the costumes and the acting silly and the leg locks and the big bravado and the mouthful of goat teeth and the tattoos all over me. There had to be something different about me to get promoters to keep bringing me back. You got to occasionally win some too, but yeah, so I just started, that little, I guess it's called my stick. So.
I know Muhammad Ali talked a lot about he was a big Gorgeous George wrestling fan when he was younger. Did you have anybody, like, not even wrestling, even if it was somebody else, did you have somebody else that you kind of looked at and said, that's pretty cool, I'm going to act like that in the ring?
Well, I didn't watch a lot. When I was real young, I watched pro wrestling.
Right.
And I lived in Paris, Tennessee till I was 9, and then I just started moving all around the South. I would probably move about once every month or 2 months. To another city. Long story on that one. But until I was 9, I grew up pretty much in Paris, and I believe it was Saturday mornings, the Fabulous Ones and Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee and Dutch Mantell and all those guys would come on. But I watched them, and then when I got a little older, I started getting to watch some of the bigger names, and then Dusty Rhodes, the way he would do an interview and he would rhyme, and he was kind of like big and out of shape, but he still acted like the women wanted him. And so I started taking some of that and running with it.
Most definitely, man. He was a trip. What made you want to get into MMA?
Man, I never wanted to. I never knew what it was. I got a football scholarship. I was going to a high school in Houston, Texas, just north of Houston. And I got a football scholarship to Bethel College in McKenzie, Tennessee, of all places. And it was tiny, and it wasn't a huge scholarship, but they offered me one, so I took it because I was coming from kind of a bad situation. I played football there 2 years, transferred to Austin Peay, and I stopped growing at 5'9". My dream was always to be the defensive tackle for the Washington Redskins. Well, there's not a lot of 5'9" defensive linemen in the NFL. So I said, okay, I'll keep coming to school, and I'll get my degree. And at the time, it was going to be in health and human performance, and I was going to be a high school football coach. And I did powerlifting meets at the time just to be competitive. And I met a guy at a bench press contest, and it was on a Wednesday night, and he told me I should be a professional fighter. Well, this was 1998. I didn't know anything about professional fighting.
Right.
And but I knew I was getting in a lot of fights with, on the weekends in bars anyway. And he said they would pay me. And so 2 days later, that was on a Wednesday. 2 days later on a Friday night, he drove me to Evansville, Indiana. I turned pro. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I won in 42 seconds. I choked the Evansville police officer out. That's who they had me fight that night.
That wasn't a side story. That was who you were fighting. It wasn't like
yes,
yeah,
yep. His name was Sam Smith. I think he still is at the police department in Evansville. But and then I was able to win that one, and then that was kind of like a double-edged sword because I won without training. So after that, I was like, well, I ain't got to train, and they're going to pay me. This is like free money. So I mean, and here I am. That was 98. So here I am 20 years later, man, and that's the only job I've ever had. I haven't done anything else.
Now, you're known as the leg lock monster. How did you get that nickname for somebody that, like you said, you hadn't wanted to be, you hadn't thought about being in MMA? How did you go from that to learning that leg lock that you do?
Well, we didn't have wrestling in high school down in Texas, where I was at anyway. And I wouldn't have been able to wrestle anyway. My high school football down in Texas is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the teachers would pass me during football season, and then when it wasn't football season, I would fail. So I didn't get to do any other extracurricular activities. So I wouldn't have got to do it anyway. But I didn't have any wrestling skills. So I was getting these fights, and I was always on bottom. And so I had to adapt and figure out, okay, what am I going to do? These guys keep taking me down. What can I do from underneath them? So I just started gravitating towards leg locks and study them, and that probably took about 5 years, and then it just caught on. Like it was just easy for me. Some people can do things easier than the average person can, and for some reason, just leg locks were easy for me, and now I've got more leg lock wins than anybody in the history of the sport, and I'm a heavyweight. And so it just, I don't know, Grappling Magazine, which was a national publication, they ran an article on me, and I didn't know they were going to title the article "The Leg Lock Monster," but they did, and the nickname just stuck after that article came out. I don't know if anybody else got to read that article because I remember the magazine came out in Books A Million, and they had like 30 on the newsstand. I bought up all 30 of them, so nobody else in Clarksville, Tennessee got to read that article.
You are one of the most entertaining fighters in the world. When did you start to incorporate that into your game?
Well, I was dating a girl in 2000. She got pregnant, so I was going to be a daddy. Well, I at the time I was fighting probably 3 or 4 times a year. And when she got pregnant, I've never had a dad. I don't know anything about being a dad, but I knew it was going to take money. So when I found out she got pregnant, I started fighting, and I fought 26 times that in 2003, and that averages out every other weekend. And I had to come up with something to get these promoters to keep bringing me out because I was losing just as much as I was winning. And so I started doing silly things, and I remember I fought down in New Orleans, and I dropped a guy and then, beat on him a little bit. And then I thought, for some reason, the Rock's people's elbow sprang in my mind. So I jumped up, sprang off the ropes, and did the people's elbow in a cage fight. And just stuff like that. That got a lot of buzz, and I got a lot of attention for that. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, I'm going to start running with this. So I started doing the Karate Kid's crane kick and just all kind of silly things. And sometimes it worked out to my benefit, and sometimes it didn't. But it left an impression anyway.
Yeah. Either way, man, people remember you for that kind of stuff.
And in wrestling, we're taught it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's if they remember you at the end of the night. That's what people remember.
Right. And it has really sustained me, man, because if you pull me up on the internet, I think the internet's got me at like losses or something, but there was no way. I've been fighting in the heavyweight division. Everybody I'm fighting 6'5", 6'4". I'm 5'9". I'm not overly athletic. I'm not going to be competing in any of those bodybuilding shows that you announced. So I had to come up with something, and my thing was acting silly and being able to take a lot of punishment. And so that's what's been able to sustain me for so long.
Well, I'll say this, Josh. You know what? Nowadays when you watch MMA, how many times does a fighter fight in a given year? Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe three times.
At the most twice.
Yeah, at the most 3 times, right? This man has fought 26 pro fights in a single year.
God almighty.
Can you believe that? What was it like to have that kind of a grueling schedule? Did you think about it at the time? Like, but this is a lot of fights, or was you just like, bring on the next guy?
No, I didn't realize it was happening, but I knew, at the time we were living in an apartment, so my daughter had gotten in a terrible habit of eating every day. So I had to keep the money coming in, right? And so the rent would come due, the car note would come due, insurance, the baby's got to eat. It was just everything kept coming every month, and it just worked out where I had to keep the money coming in. And at the time, this was back 15 years ago, man. The money was not. I don't know the local pro wrestlers what they're making, but I was only making probably $700-800 a fight on a majority of those,
Right.
So I had to keep doing it.
Yeah, pro wrestlers don't make that much if they're not in the WWE.
You got a hot dog and a handshake for most
pretty
of your
much.
stuff.
Oh, wow. So these local wrestlers that do the local shows, like at the National Guard Armories and stuff, I think Charlie told me, do they make like $50-75 or something like that?
I mean, maybe. I mean, that's the thing. If you get a good promoter, you'll get something like that. But you've got a lot of guys out there that, around the late 90s, the talent pool for the indies was just polluted with all these guys that wanted to do it from the backyard that didn't want to be trained. So you had a lot of guys that just flooded an area thinking they knew how to run a show, and it just destroyed the market. So there's no money there. And then you have promoters that aren't that good, that don't know how to get sponsors, that don't know how to pay their guys. And then you have the stupid guys that come back for no money. So, yeah, I mean, there's it's very rare that you find somebody that makes good money at doing independent wrestling around this area.
A lot of the guys will just be like, well, I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Right.
Get yourself over, and you'll make money elsewhere.
Which helps if you are Jerry Lawler or somebody that has an opportunity to give.
Well,
now, if you don't have an opportunity to give, you're just basically out there wrestling for Rufus and his wrestling company that hasn't ever done anything, you know?
Right. And so, but what's the chances of getting over, you know, on one of those that, I've been to a couple of those National Guard tournaments, and they got like 20, 25 people out in the crowd. But so is the getting over again? Is that just something to get people to come wrestle for them? Is it not very likely?
Now, here's the thing. You get a young guy, you're a promoter, you get a young guy that's just started wrestling, you put him in the ring, and you tell him, bring your friends and family. And, you know, young people still have friends and family. So they bring them all. They get in that ring, and they have 25 relatives or 40 relatives and friends cheering them on.
That's paid $5 to get in.
Right. And they're making no money. It's almost like they made a fortune that night because for one night they get to be this rock star. So they end up pretty much like a drug addict chasing the dragon of that crowd reaction. Like I said, there's not a lot of upward movement really. I mean, unless you're wrestling on a major circuit where somebody can see you, chances are if you're doing a local promotion, you're not getting paid but like $20 in a handshake, you're probably not going to go very far.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
You fought tons of guys all over the world. Is there anyone that you haven't crossed paths with that you would like to before you end your career?
Well, I mean, my favorite fighter of all time was Tank Abbott. So, and I've kind of, you know, stole a bunch of the stuff he had going on where he would, you know, show out for the crowd and stuff like that. But so if I could fight anybody, it's him. But now Tank Abbott's probably drawing SSI right now. He's an older guy.
Yeah.
But as far as I don't really have any dreams of anybody in particular. Just whoever the promoter is going to pay me so I can pay rent next month is really, you know, what it boils down to, man. I never really loved it. Like I'll coach some of these kids and they love it, man. They just there's nothing they want to do besides go in the gym and train and get better. And I was never that guy, man. I was just always thinking about something else, and this was just a way to make, you know. To me, it was easy money. Other people might think, you know, washing dishes at a Mexican restaurant's easy money. But to me, this was easy. Once I could get to the fight now, the day of, it's miserable. But everything besides the day of it was easy money. So I kept doing it. And I just didn't have the love for it that a lot of people do. And you think doing something like this, you better love it just because the amount of damage and stuff you take, but for whatever reason, I never loved it, and I was always had my mind on something else.
Well, right. I mean, a lot of people, especially when you look at like the heavyweight division as a whole, you know, they'll say, well, this guy was good, Junior Dos Santos, whatever. But a lot of guys, they'll look at like Fedor Emelianenko, and they'll say, that's the guy. That's the guy that dominated, you know, his era. I mean, is he ever a guy that you've ever, you know, even met or, you know, hey, that guy, I think maybe I could hold a chance at him at, you know, whatever.
I've never met Fedor. He just recently, the last couple of years, started fighting in America. Most of his, I'd probably say 30 fights of his, an overwhelming majority of his fights took place in Japan.
Right.
Which was interesting. You know, he won all of them in Japan. The one disqualification that he lost was early in his career, and it wasn't a true MMA fight. But he won like 30 of them, and then in a row. And then he comes over here and can't win 2 in a row. Well, you ask, why is that? Well, over there's no commission. And over there, a lot of the, you know, the organization was ran by, you know, the powers that be and the mafia. Yeah. Over here, you had commissions and you had regulations and you had things like that going on, and you can't win 2 in a row. So were all those 30 real? I don't know. I have my doubts.
You know, I've thought that too. And from what I've heard, Big Daddy Gary Goodrich, he spoke out within the last 3 to 4 years. talking about, well, these fights were legit, but on certain occasions, this guy, he may have, took the dive or whatever, just because the Yakuza aspect. I mean, have you ever heard that before?
I've absolutely heard it before, and Mark Coleman fought in Pride, and when he fought, it was a Japanese fighter, and it slipped Takada. When he fought Takada got him in an ankle lock, and Marks came back years later and said that was he lost on purpose.
Right.
They paid him extra to lose. Well, that's just something I hear through the grapevine. I fought a guy named Big John Dixon up in Boston, Massachusetts. John Dixon fought on Pride 1, and we've gotten to be pretty friendly, since then. And John came out and told me, look, they flew me to Japan a week early. We choreographed the fight, and this was in an MMA fight in Pride 1, the very first Pride. He choreographed it, and he knew how he was going to lose, and so it definitely happened in Japan. Now, did it happen with Fedor? I don't know, but it's very suspicious. A guy goes 30-0 in Japan and can't win 2 in a row in America. That's suspicious.
Well, Jerry Lawler used to tell us in the back when I was in Memphis Wrestling, he used to tell us, don't think that pro wrestling is the only scripted sport out there.
Yep, absolutely.
And I mean, you look at it like this when you see guys, anytime there is money that can be changed hands on the outcome, don't think that people don't know that. But the funny thing is that was where wrestling was. Wrestling used to be this legit sport that they brought in, and then the carnivals brought it in, and they would work it a little bit to make money off of it. That's why they called it a carniac.
Yeah, they'd have shoot matches, right, with Carl Gotch, or I think it was Carl Gotch that would do all those shoots, and then I guess it transitioned over. Now, the wrestling thing, man, the way they sell shots and stuff, I absolutely think it could happen in MMA. I think if it happens in North America, I think it's probably real rare, but because there's so much other things involved. But over there, where it's kind of like the Wild Wild West in Japan, where there's no powers that be that could stop it, I think it's probably rampant.
Man, you got a ton of press when you faced Ken Shamrock, and you did the double flip escape. Were you going for a rolling knee bar?
Here's the thing with the Ken Shamrock. Yes, it was going to be a rolling knee bar. I've gotten that on several people. And people don't realize, it looks like a little short fat guy doing a silly barrel roll. That's what it looks. Here's the situation. We had fought 3 rounds. It was a 3-round fight. That was at the end of the 3rd round. There was about a minute left, I think. That was the exact same thing as losing in the 4th quarter and throwing a Hail Mary and trying to get lucky. I was hoping when I missed that kick on purpose and turned my back that he would close the distance and he would fall into a rolling knee bar is what it's called.
Right.
He didn't. He didn't do it. Well, I didn't know he didn't do it until I was already through that first roll. Now I'm blind. I don't know where he's at, but he wasn't between my legs when I rode. So I thought, what the hell? Let's roll this thing again and see. So I did a second row. And that's how that happened. But if I could redo one fight in my career, it'd definitely be that one. I got in there and was looking across from Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man, is what his tagline was. Here I am, a poor kid that comes from the middle of nowhere where you got to sell dope or be good at a sport to make any money. And just nobody knew who I was. And I'm in there looking across from him, and it was Ken Shamrock, the guy I used to rent his VHS tapes from Blockbuster and sit in my room and watch. Anyway, it's just I froze up, didn't let my hands go. When I did punch in the 2nd round, I knocked him down. But that was just a Hail Mary. And it gets made fun of because it's a little fat guy doing a roll, but that was my Hail Mary. The pass felt incomplete.
Well, man, for what it's worth, I remember, watching Inside MMA on HDNet, and, Bosch Rutan's, he's calling the thing. He's like, well, I don't know what this guy is doing. He's doing the double flip, And really, I mean, I was surprised that he didn't even notice you were going for the rolling knee bar initially, and then you just escaped.
Well, if you watch most of his fights, when he does that rolling knee bar, it was the same flip that he was doing in that fight against Ken Shamrock.
Well, yeah, but I mean, obviously, Boss, he's only seen what he's seen.
Right.
You know? I just thought it was hilarious.
Well, you guys, I've said the same thing you guys were. And that's when I kind of, because Boss was on there with Babalu, and they were kind of joking about it, which it's fine. But the way they cut that clip that they showed, it had me punching my chest and egging Shamrock on, and then it goes right to him punching me me beating my chest was in the first round. Him punching me was in the third round.
Right.
They made it look like I bit off more than I could chew, and how dare I, Shamrock's gonna make me pay for this. Listen, that was the way they put that clip on there is not the way it happened.
Exactly.
And then you got a guy that was on HD Net. That was a national public. It was covered nationally. You're telling me Boss Rutan sees a guy whose nickname is the Leg Lock Monster. Boss Rutan is covering a national broadcast and doesn't do enough homework to see, well, this guy's won more fights by leg lock than anybody. He turns, it looks like a rolling knee bar. Maybe I kind of lost respect for Boss on that. Now, I've heard he's a great guy. I've never got to meet him, but after that, I was just like, man, why did you
that's
do me
what
like
I'm
that?
saying. It was so crazy to me that he didn't even notice the rolling knee bar. I mean, I've watched it, maybe 10 times in my life, but even I noticed it, and I'm not an MMA guy.
Do you think they just didn't want to give you like leeway there because you're so animated in the ring? They thought you were just trying to do like a little skit to entertain the crowd?
I think they honestly had no idea who I was. And they see a guy. I don't look very technical. I look like a guy out of the bar that's just a street fighter. That's what he thought, I think, because he even mentioned, this is a bald-headed Tank Abbott or something. And so that's what he thought. He thought I was just a brawler. He didn't do any homework on who I was. Right. And he said something that was ignorant, but it got a lot of press and that clips now. I think on YouTube it's got like, I don't know, a bunch of hundreds of thousands of views.
Right. Definitely.
And so, the people that haven't heard of me, which I've been like on the pro wrestlers that do the independent circuit or whatever, I've been kind of on that circuit. I've never fought in the UFC. And so a lot of people don't know who I am. And they hear Boss say that, and they think, little short, fat guy's doing rolls and didn't know what he was doing, and how dare him disrespect Ken Shamrock, and it played right along with what they were wanting for the show.
Right.
Now, I'll say this, people of YouTube, if you're monetizing that video with Jonathan Ivey doing the rolls and everything, you better get him his money because, one, I wouldn't want to owe him money. But seriously, if you're monetizing that video that's got 100 and something thousand views, maybe 200, 300, give him some money over that, Am I right? If somebody's making money off of you with views, pay the man, right?
Every couple months that little clip of that roll, people it'll make its rounds on social media every 3 or 4 months, and I know that because people start tagging me in it like crazy on my Facebook and stuff. But people has put the Mortal Kombat theme music to it and said, this is what happens when you don't know the buttons on the controller or whatever. You just start doing. But yeah, man, it's every couple months I got to deal with that.
Have you ever watched Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell? Okay, so you remember the part where Sacha Baron Cohen has him in an arm lock, and he's like, just say you like crepes. Just say you like crepes. And he's like, you're just going to have to break it. Now, I'm leading to somewhere with this.
Okay.
Have you ever grabbed the leg lock on someone, and you were just like, come on, man, tap out, tap out, tap out, and they didn't, and you were like, okay, I'm just going to have to break it. Has it ever gotten to that point?
Got to break it.
Yep.
I've probably broken 10 legs, probably. One of them's on YouTube. It's, I almost got in trouble one time. Here's the thing. I'm just going to be honest with you guys because I like y'all. I went down to Pensacola, Florida about 3 years ago now, and they had me fight a hometown boy. His name was Sammy Collingwood. Well, he was being very mean. I'm not used to people being mean and rude. I'm used to people being professional, and this is what we got to do. Well, he was trying to, intimidate me, and the guy had only had, 10 fights, and at this time I had over 100. And I'm thinking, I fought Ken Shamrock. You think I'm going to be scared of you is what I'm thinking. But anyway, and so we get in a fight. He's being, mean and prick and all that. And so I knew as soon as the fight started, I thought, if I get a hold of something, I'm going to break it. Well, 30 seconds into the fight, I get a hold of his leg. He starts tapping. Well, I was already upset because this guy was being mean to me the night before at weigh-in. And so I act like I didn't feel it tap, because my back's turned to him. I'm cranking on his knee. And so I go ahead and break his leg, and the referee jumps in and says, "Hey, man, he tapped out." Well, one, it's a rule that I'm not supposed to tap. Most people let go when their opponent taps, but you don't have to because you don't know if the referee's seen the tap or not. You're supposed to wait till the referee makes you let go. So that's what I did, man. I said, "Ref, I didn't feel him tap. You had to tell me," and then it was too late. His leg was broke. But on YouTube, you see him try to get him to limp back to his corner. He sits there for forever, and it ended up his leg was broke. But it's happened a lot. Now, have I ever not? I don't. I had a fight up in where was that at? That was up in Indiana somewhere, and I got tapped and I let go, and the referee didn't see the tap, and he restarted it, and I ran out of gas, and the guy ended up beating me. And so from then on, I was like, no, I'm gonna make the referee make me stop. I go 100 miles an hour now. To do that, where you better tap or I'm going to break it, you would have to be going half speed. Right. And half speed means they're going to have double the time to get out of it or escape it. So I go 100 miles an hour, and if you don't tap out before I break it, that's on you, man. Right. The show's got insurance to cover that. I was in a grappling tournament. I did a grappling tournament one time. That's the only time I did that, where I told the guy, he said he studied dim mock, and he knew there's a death touch. And I said, well, I said, buddy, first I don't believe in any traditional martial arts, but he said he knew this dim mock death touch, and just kidding around. I said, well, gosh, you're not going to use that today, are you? And he goes, no, buddy. He said, don't worry, I'm not going to use it. I said, well, thank you. Well, I think something was a little wrong with him, and we're just doing a grappling tournament, and I get him in a leg lock, and he won't tap, and I look at the ref. I said, well, if I go any further with this, it's going to break his leg. And the referee said, please don't break his leg. It was one of these little small town grappling tournaments. The only reason I entered it was to get the cash prize for winning it. And so I ended up letting it go, and I moved to a chokehold. And people tend to tap out whenever they're going to pass out, and so he tapped from that. But that's the only time I've ever let somebody go without really trying to break it.
Now, I'll be honest with you, man. I had notes for this interview, but you're such a good talker that I've just basically put my phone down, and I had to pick up my phone because I remembered the point of an interview is to promote, right? So
well, you would think.
Yeah, so let's do some promotion, and then we'll get back to some silliness and some talking some stories and everything else because, dude, I'm having a great time. This is awesome. So let's do some promotion. He's defending his Coliseum Combat Championship. He's also putting on a show February 10th for his promotion. So if you want to tell us where that's going to be, I don't have the dates and times, but you're February 10th, you're putting on a show?
February 10th, I've got my own promotion. I can't fight forever, and I have very limited job opportunities. And so people's like, you got to start planning for when you get done fighting. So I started running my own promotion. This is my third event. The first two have sold out.
Awesome.
Thank goodness. This one's going to be February 10th in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, at the Middle Tennessee Expo Center. Well, I'm hoping this thing sells out. It seems like it's going in that direction. So we got about 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I'll go up to Kokomo, Indiana to defend my heavyweight title up there for Coliseum Combat. I won it last August. And I'm 41 years old, guys, and they had me fighting a 23-year-old. But God willing, we're going to do that. And they got me defending the belt against Sean Selman. He's a UFC veteran. This will be the 27th guy I fought in the UFC, but they've never let me in for some reason.
Wow.
There's several reasons, but that's the biggest one is I'm hard to deal with. I've never had a manager or anything like that. I've always thought, if I'm taking 100% of the punches, I want 100% of the money. And so I've tried to manage myself my whole career, so maybe that might have something to do with where I'm at. But I'm fighting Sean Selman, and I think it's going to go good, guys. I really do. He's a good he wrestled in the Olympics, but if he takes me down, he's going to get leg locked. So I don't think he's going to do that. So it's probably just going to end up being a kickboxing match. If you guys make it up to Kokomo, Indiana, not only am I going to give you tickets, but you're more than welcome to go in the dressing room with us, walk out with us. The last time I came out like Hannibal Lecter, and I had I had two of my cornermen come out as security guards, and they wheeled me out on the dolly like they did in the movie Silence of the Lambs.
Awesome.
So we could dress you guys up in a costume, and we'll come up with something.
Hey, man, I'm game for that. You've been to Japan to fight for the Pancrase promotion. What was it like working for them in Japan?
Well, I'm gonna be now. The correct answer was it was an honor to go to Japan of the rising sun and get to compete in martial arts where everything originated. That was what I'm supposed to say. What I'm going to tell you is it was terrible. It was a bad that organization. At least the people I dealt with are terrible, man. And I've caught a lot of flack with that. They didn't send an interpreter. Anyway. I'm just going to tell you the story because I enjoy talking to you guys.
I appreciate it.
I get over there. I don't have an interpreter. They don't give me a hotel room. They've got me staying in an apartment that I'm not supposed to be at. The security guard at the front door says, I'm not allowed to be there. You can't stay there single nights at this place. Well, I guess they were trying to save money, so they put me in somebody's apartment. Well, I get harassed every time I go in and out the front door of this apartment complex. And it's not like I fit in over there. It's like I don't blend in over here, much less over there. So I've got to do that. Well, I ended up meeting a girl at a Japanese restaurant who spoke English. And so I asked her to give me a tour. Anyway, long story short, the short, fat guy did pretty good for himself. Well, we get to be real friendly. So I'll say, you know what, you're going to be my interpreter and you're going to be my corner and you're going to go to the fight with me. Well, the organization would not let her in my corner. They wouldn't let her come to the show. I don't know how I think the men and women thing's different over there, but so now I'm upset. Now I feel like they're disrespecting me because I've already got to fight the security guard of this apartment complex every time I walk in and out of the place. So now I'm upset. So now I start getting a little. Well, they said we want you to be the bad guy. So we're doing all the interviews and everything. They're like, you be real mean American. And so I start boasting and talking big and saying what I'm going to do, playing that angle where I'm going to be the bad guy. The fight didn't go well. I felt like it was a quick stoppage. But the whole situation it was miserable, man. And I was looking forward to it because Pancrase has been around for so long. I was just misled and misused over there. And I don't think they're going to hear this podcast anyway. And if they do, they're a long way away. I'm not worried about it.
Hey, our audience reaches 11s of people every week.
I don't know how many Tokyo listeners we have, but hopefully they'll be easy on me if they hear this.
We're big in the Ukraine, but not so much in Tokyo.
Okay, good. I'm safe then.
This has been one of the most fun interviews I've ever done because, like I said, you're such an easy guy to talk to. You're charismatic. And it's been so fun just to talk and just be honest. You have so many people that call in that do these interviews and they just give that honest answer, that political answer where it's like, it was great wrestling in Japan. I loved it. But meanwhile, they're not telling you about the horrors of the bathroom in Japan. Did you ever have to ask for a Western toilet?
I did not have to ask for a Western toilet, but, I'd say 60% of the people over there that walk down the street have surgical masks on. I didn't understand that because the other 40% don't have surgical masks on. So after a week of doing that, wouldn't the people that are having to wear the mask think, hey, nothing bad's happening to the other people? Anyway, I never understood that. But what do you mean a Western toilet? My toilet in my room was normal.
Okay, yeah. So basically in wrestling culture, they have in Japan, most of the time the toilets are a little porcelain hole on the ground.
You talking about like a bidet?
No, it's actually a porcelain bowl that sits directly on the ground, and that's what they use. They don't use a toilet like we use. So the toilet that we use is called a Western toilet. It's actually raised, and so sometimes you have to ask for that. So I guess if you could Google it, you could see it.
Well, now in the Americas, we have the squatty potty.
Yeah. No, you're doing the exact opposite. No, squatty potty is to get your legs up. If you're listening to Squatty Potty, we'll be happy to be your sponsor. But squatty potty is to get your legs up. This is just a hole in the ground that you set on, and that's their basic toilet.
Well, I didn't know this, but maybe they did me a favor because they gave me a Western toilet. I don't think, but the way you're describing it, I don't think I'm limber enough to use that other thing.
Well, Andre the Giant, when he used to go to Japan, there was these stories. Hulk Hogan told a story in his book. When Andre the Giant went to Japan, he was miserable because he's a larger-than-life guy. He's flying in a plane that really is not big enough to hold him. He's flying overseas, and then he's going to a country that's built for somebody that's like 5'3", 5'4", like smaller people. And he is all of 7 foot tall. So they said what he used to do, because he couldn't fit in the bathrooms and the toilets were so small, that he used to throw newspapers on his bed and then crap right there on his bed, just on the newspapers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Andre.
Yeah, Andre the Giant. The same bed that Hulk Hogan said that he made a lot of women make wild noises, and he thought that he might be hurting them.
Let me introduce you to the thermos, sister.
Well, wow.
Yeah.
Well, no, I will say, well, I'm speechless after
Can I
that
say
one.
this? I feel like I've accomplished something because Jonathan Ivey is speechless over a story I just told. That is awesome.
Yeah, because Andre's number twos had to be just body pillow size.
Right.
And so, yeah, and then you got women in the next. But I don't think we didn't have beds over there. We had to sleep on they had like a, I don't know what you would call that, but it was on the ground.
Like
I guess I don't. Yeah, I had a little pallet. Yeah, I had a little pallet. I felt like I was spending the night over my friend's house, like when I was 7 years old, and they gave me a little pallet.
That's awesome, because I think me and Josh grew up together, and every time Josh come over to my house, we had a mattress that was sitting against the wall, and I would just pull that thing down. It's like, there you go, man. You're going to sleep on that. And that was his pallet. That was what we did.
Little private Japan.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Do you have anything lined up after Coliseum Combat?
No, I don't have any fights lined up. I'm planning on fighting on my next show. It's probably going to be in Nashville. And I'm wanting to bring in a big name like a Butterbean or a Tank Abbott or a type like that, whatever I can. Because both of those guys are older, so I'm hoping they won't charge me crazy numbers. But
Right.
that's what I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to fight here in Middle Tennessee. I don't like traveling, man. People think that they love traveling and they want to. I don't like it. If the shortest amount of distance I can go to make the money and then get right back home is what I prefer. So I'm going to try to fight right here in Middle Tennessee and do that. I think that's the best thing for me.
Yeah, man. When I was wrestling, I was like, how fast can I get in the ring, make my money, and then get back home? Because you don't want to have to do the long layovers, the long drives. I can't tell you how many storms that I've had to drive through going, is a tornado going to take me out? Am I going to die driving to Dyersburg, Tennessee tonight? And you don't want that, you know?
And I fought in Venezuela, Mexico, Japan, almost every state except maybe Alaska. Everybody thinks, man, you're so lucky. You got all I got to see was 2 days of a hotel room, and then right back on the plane and fly away. And so it's not like this great lavish thing that people think. And some of the hotel room, man, they've had me in some doozies. Let me tell you, they don't. They've put me in some. I remember I fought Dan the Beast Severn. He did pro wrestling for a little while, but we fought up in Massachusetts, and it was the first big name guy I'd ever fought. And I thought I was really going to make it. I thought, man, this is it. They're flying me up here. They picked me up in a SUV, and I remember they picked me and Dan up at the same time from the airport. And I'm sitting behind him in this SUV, and his head was mad. And I got a big head, but this guy's head, and I remember thinking, there's no way if I punch that it's going to hurt him. It's just so big. Well, they get us to the motel. It was a not a nice place by any means, but we get there, and there's a used condom on the floor in my room. and Dan's right across the hallway from me. And I remember thinking, man, this is my big time shot right here. And there's a used condom on the floor of my room. So it was one of those things, man, where it's traveling's never been good to me, unfortunately.
Pro wrestlers are notorious for playing practical jokes on one another. Is it the same in the MMA world? If so, do you have any good ones, you'd like to share?
Not really funny-wise, guys. It's pretty much just real serious because, you're fixing to get in a locked cage with somebody that whether or not their wife and kids have a roof over their head depends on whether or not they beat you unconscious, And so it gets pretty serious. But one time, I think it did have. I was fighting in Caracas, Venezuela. Nobody spoke English, and I remember I had my mouth. I'm in the dressing room of the venue, and I'm getting dressed, and I'm walking over to mirrors and stuff like this. Well, I've got my stuff on this little table area. Well, I come back. They're fixing to call me out. It's almost my time to walk out to fight, and my mouthpiece isn't there. And I know my mouthpiece was there, guys. I'm a professional. I bring my cup, my mouthpiece, and my fight shorts. Well, my mouthpiece was out there. Somebody took my mouthpiece. When they call my name, I hear it over the city. They go out Monster Jonathan Ivey. And so I've got to walk out. I don't got a mouthpiece. And these gold teeth I got them when I was real young, probably 17 years old. Well, they were expensive, and I don't want to walk around like I ain't got no teeth. Anyway, so I remember immediately I looked to my right. There's a guy from Canada that had just got beat up real bad. His mouthpiece was sitting there. I said, buddy, give me your mouthpiece. I went out and fought a Brazilian with a Canadian mouthpiece, this guy had slobber. Guys, this is not anyway, so I've got a mouthpiece that don't fit. I'm almost gagging, throwing up, thinking this guy's saliva is getting in my mouth. But yeah, I went out and fought a Brazilian with a Canadian mouthpiece in Venezuela. That's what happened.
Do you have any advice you could give to young up-and-comers in the MMA game, as far as maybe like to how to stay relevant, or longevity in the MMA game?
Well, if I was talking to somebody that I cared about that was just getting started in it, one, I would tell them to pick something different. It's hard to make money in this. It looks cool on TV, but there's so much wear and tear on your body, guys. Sometimes I wake up and I feel 90 years old. It takes me, 30 minutes to get going in the mornings. But it's so hard to make money, man. The percentage of people that do it and just get $500 compared to the Conor McGregor's and stuff that get millions, but it's so hard to really sustain yourself off fighting. And every time you go in the cage, I don't care how well it goes, you come out a little bit less of a man physically than you were when you went in. It's just I would say pick something different. But if you're not, if you just love it, if you're just insane and it's either this or you're going to be a serial killer, I would say do it, love it, because you're going to have to invest all your time into it, and don't be cookie cutter. There's a million guys out there that all look and sound and act the same and fight the same, and those are the guys that kind of fade in and out. Do something original, be original, do something different, and surround yourself with people that care about you. I didn't do that. I always thought I knew all the answers. And it was going to be my way or the highway. Looking back, I probably should have got smarter people around me and took their advice. So surround yourself with people that care about you, that really care about you, not just care about getting 10%, 20% of your money. That care about you, love it, and give it everything you got, man. But I tell you, it's a rough business.
Well, once again, he's got a book coming out this summer called Jonathan Ivey, The Leglock Monster with Charlie Dykstra. And you can catch Jonathan Ivey's Cage Fighting Championships Saturday night, February 10th, Murfreesboro, Tennessee at the Middle Tennessee Expo Center. Also, Coliseum Combat 43, Saturday, February 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in Kokomo, Indiana. It has been a blast, man.
Truly a pleasure, man.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, as soon as the fight hits the floor, get out your stopwatches because I'm going to break his leg in about 60 seconds.
Great talking to you, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Florida Ticket Station. Florida. Your one-stop shop for discounted tickets on all of Orlando's best theme parks. Orlando. All of Orlando's local attractions. Orlando. All of Orlando's events. All of Orlando's local attractions, and so much more. They offer affordable tickets to Disney World, Mickey Mouse, Universal Studios, Back to the Future, SeaWorld, Legoland, everything is awesome, Busch Gardens, I don't know what that is, and so much more.
But seriously, Josh, they are licensed and insured with the state of Florida. So you can rest assured that your reservations are valid. Summer's coming and vacation time's right around the corner. So go to tinyurl.com/P3Florida and book your Orlando vacation today. tinyurl.com/P3Florida.
P3 Florida.
Well, that's going to wrap up another episode of P3 Radio. Once again, we'd like to thank the Leglock Monster, Jonathan Ivey, for being a part of today's show. You can check out his events on Facebook. Just go there and type in Jonathan Ivey's Cage Fighting Championships. It'll come up. And while you're over there on Facebook, type in Pop Poncho and visit our Facebook page. Also, follow us on Twitter at P3Radio1. That's P3Radio1. Or send us an email at P3Radio1@gmail.com. Or give us a call at our number 731-300-6675. For Josh Briley, this is Richard Mulliken saying thanks again for listening and good night.